Okay, just about to make a video about another computer I just received in the post, and I got this out to use as a comparison. It's a Poqet PC. This was a kind of forerunner to the Palm Tops. It's kind of a bit like an Atari portfolio, except it's a bit more fully PC compatible. And like a lot of things of this age, it's now starting to have brittle plastics. I got this out to give it a size comparison, and this does have a crack in it just here. I don't know how easy that shows up on the camera, but as I opened it I heard another crack, and if you look down the side here, this massive crack has developed, and it's got bigger in the last 5 minutes just by opening and closing the whole machine once. I think there's a smaller crack here. So I'm going to have to try and fix this before the whole quarter falls off. It's already propagated around the corner. So this is bad news. So we need to fix this as soon as possible. Trying to get some kind of solvent cement glue in the crack and for it to be sealed, I think is going to be too difficult. I'm going to have to do something that's cosmetically less acceptable, unfortunately. So my plan, and it's not a great plan, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to do this, is to get a bit of plastic and bond it to the outside. And I've got this kind of fake credit card that was given away with something. Oh, so this is not a real Visa card, no way, really. So, but the colour is a pretty good match. And what I'm going to do is cut a corner off here and glue it in place here. And I think that's going to be the least obtrusive way of fixing this. It's got a very thin profile. It's white on the edge, unfortunately, but if I can get it cut to the right size, it should look reasonably cosmetically okay. And hopefully by bonding it to it, it should give enough strength to stop that crack from propagating all the way around the corner and falling off. Which would be a big problem because these are nice little machines and they're pretty rare, and I definitely want to keep it going as long as possible. So let's see if we can do that. First of all, we're going to have to cut this down to size. Do I want to incorporate the curved angle in here somehow? It might work quite well on that corner. Cosmetically from the front it might look better that way around. Don't know, but I need to cut this down to size. So let's do that first. So in terms of cutting this, it's quite chunky, it's rigid plastic, like credit cards are. So I need something fairly robust, I think. I think a knife is not going to cut clean. So I'm going to use a fairly chunky pair of scissors, just so we get nice straight edges. So that's the bit I'm going to use. How to use it, that's the question. Just trying to work out if cosmetically having the curve, the radius at the front is going to be better, or whether I should just make it square all round, or whether I should put the curve on that radius there. I think that's the best way to go, isn't it? So if I cut it somewhere around here, and this is where the old measure twice, cut once things comes in. It's a shame it's got a white edge. We're definitely going to notice that from the front. I might put some black marker around the edge. Okay, we're getting there. Just a few, probably just a millimetre less. I think that's pretty good in terms of the height. Now we need to get the width approximately right. Having the curved corner actually is really useful because it's kind of like giving it a key so we know which way to put it back on every time. Okay, I think that's probably the closest I'm going to get it. I feel like I need to round this corner off somehow. I don't have a file, at least not here. So what are we going to do about that? Let me think about that. Okay, so we've got our little thing, but I was worried about this corner being a bit sharper, maybe that one as well. Couldn't find a file, but it appears that my other half is mysteriously going to miss a nail file. So let's just use that just to straighten up and round off these corners. That's worked pretty well. Just gonna take that one off just so it's not so pointy, and same with that one. Okay, I think that's done the job pretty well. Don't want to make it too rounded, just want to take the edge off. I want to make sure this edge is completely straight, because it doesn't look quite straight to me. Right, there we go, one nail file later. It's taken off a bit of the colour, unfortunately. So anyway, I think that is now going to be the correct overall profile to go on here. So do I colour it? Do I colour the edges before I glue it? I think the answer to that is yes. I think I do. But hopefully you can see that's probably about as good as I'm going to get it in terms of shape. So black Sharpies aren't quite black, but neither is this. So I'm hoping if the colour takes that it will be okay. Sorry, camera, you having trouble focusing on that? It's not that difficult. Okay, it's not brilliant, but it's going to be good enough to disguise that edge on profile. Put a little bit more here. So So how am I going to get it stuck on there? I think so super glue is going to be too brittle. I want something that's kind of stronger than that. What I'm going to suggest is we use some actual cement, so it's going to melt. Hopefully both this and this, and actually bond them together rather than glue them together. Bit risky because this is a one-way modification. But if I do nothing, this corner is going to fall off the next time I open this. I don't think I've got a choice, so let me get the right stuff. So what I'm going to do is use some IPA to clean the surfaces, and that will hopefully help the bonding. I'm going to use some solvent cement for, this is usually used in plumbing for pipe work. I'm going to use that. I'm going to keep this because there are some other cracks that may develop, so this area here might be useful. But what I thought I might do is, if I actually put a little bit of this on here, it'll tell me whether it's going to, you know, chemically interact with it and bond it or not. So let me just do that first. And we'll know if it's working because in theory it will start to eat in to the plastic. And what should be happening is I should be getting bits of this plastic coming off and sticking to my cotton wool bud, and the surface of this should be getting rough where it's been dissolved, and that is not happening. So that makes this more risky. It means it might not bond. Probably a two-part adhesive, Araldite type. Epoxy is probably going to be better for this then. What I also have is a two-part super glue that bonds better than normal super glue. So that's, we might try that in a moment because I haven't got any two-part epoxy. I have got some just extra strong Loctite type adhesive. So should we try a little bit of these and see if either of these work? So if I cut this off here. See if we can glue these to itself. I know it's not quite the same as that, but so with the super glue, what I'm going to do is put a dab of the super glue, oops, which may have bonded too well to its own cap. Just put a little dab of that on there if it hasn't all dried up. There we go. So I don't know if you can see that, but there's a very small amount of the super glue on the card. I'll try and desperately get this lid on before I put super glue all over the place. And that is not going to plan. Okay, then what I'm going to do is put some of the activator on there, and then put them face to face. And we'll see what happens to that in a minute. In the meantime, let's just try some good old-fashioned extra strong adhesive on another part. And we'll give those half an hour to set, and then we'll come back and see if either of them worked very well. So it's been a couple of hours since we glued these two samples. So they're both stuck, so that's good. This one's got some residue sticking out the side, so you need to be careful about how much we put underneath when we do this. So that's still a little bit wet. After 2 hours, that is surprisingly strong. So plastic on plastic, are we going to go with the plastic optimized super glue, which is what this one was? This is not an advert for Visa. Or do we go for a 2-part epoxy and let it rest for 24 hours? This doesn't seem to have dried very much at all in the last 2 hours, so I think I'm going to avoid that. Okay, I'm going to go with the super glue. So let's give it a go. Let's get the wet glue off my finger before I start touching this computer and covering it in glue residue. So let's get rid of that. So question next is, do we put the glue on here and the activator on there? That's the most logical. Don't want to get glue seeping in through the crack. So I think that is the most sensible thing to do. So we'll put the glue on there, activator on the plastic. Don't need that anymore. Put some tweezers over in case we need to reposition. We don't need that anymore. So the only things we need are the glue, the tweezers, and we need to clean everything. I'm just going to use some isopropyl alcohol to do this. Don't want to get it too wet because I don't want it seeping in through the crack necessarily, because that will probably weaken the glue. I need to make sure it completely dries. And then we're going to do this side of the bit was sticking on. Well, that's definitely worked because it's taken off the excess Sharpie. So I think they're both now as clean as they can be. So, is this going to work? Let's hope so. Very nervous about putting this on his end, but it's the best way of getting a view of the problem, as it were. So once I've got the glue on here, it's going to be hard to handle. So I probably need to put the activator on first, but I noticed it dried out really quickly. So I don't know if it leaves something behind when it dries out. Let's hope so, because it's going to take a second to get the super glue. Yeah. Okay, I've got a definite problem now because the super glue won't open. And I think I'm about to crack the metal, which means it's going to leak everywhere. That could be a disaster. So basically this is not coming off. before. This wouldn't come off now, the actual opening isn't going, but I'm going to get a leak here if I'm not careful. That might be the only way I'm going to get some glue out. Okay, so plan B. If I can't get the super glue out, we're in trouble. And we're going to have to go to plan B, which I think is going to be cutting this tube. So I've cut the tube and it's leaking everywhere. Let's get a little leak onto there. I can't actually see where it's got to go. It's a little bit of residue coming out because there's so much glue. No, I don't want you to stick. A very small amount's gone up there between the two. But if I open this up, I'm going to flex that joint, the thing we're trying to fix. I think we're just going to have to go for it. All right. Should have done that earlier, it's much more stable. It's ended up sticking very, very quickly, and it's in very slightly the wrong position. And it feels like it's only stuck on one side. Which is going to be a big shame. Let's see if I can remove some of this excess. It's a little bit in shadow. Okay, so very slightly went wrong at the end there, but it does feel like it's sticking. What I can't work out is whether it's sticking to both halves of the crack. And we're not going to know until it's fully set and dried. I'm going to put that to one side. We'll come back in about half an hour and see what's happened. Okay, so it's been about 18 hours later, and we've come back to the Poqet PC. So this is the end result. Let's just zoom in a little bit on that. So it did go slightly in the wrong position. It's gone a little bit too far that way. It's a little bit tilted this way as well. But overall, cosmetically, it's not too bad. There is a gap, if you look from the back, where I've managed to get it in slightly the wrong position. There's a small gap where it overhangs, and you can see the white underside of the card. But colouring in the edges has definitely helped with the overall appearance. There's a little bit of grey residue from the super glue, which I'm hoping will come off. Does look like it is. That's really common when you use super glue. The fumes tend to spread a little bit and then set on any surface and give you this kind of bluey grey residue. You may have seen in films they use it for picking up fingerprints, for example. But sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain if it shows. But it is coming off quite nicely, so that's good. So cosmetically, I give that a 6 out of 10. I think the colours match pretty well. I don't think you're going to notice it straight away. It's a shame it's not quite in the right position. But the reason we did this is to protect the joint. So has it done that? Well, I was worried when it went on. The crack was diagonal, wasn't it? I was worried that the two halves weren't quite flat, and so this was glued on one side but not the other, and it is this side that's very slightly lifted, I think. But I think it has bonded. The recommendation for super glue from Loctite is that it should be fully cured in 24 hours. It's been 18, and it's a bit of a long tail, I suspect, on super glue, so most of the bonding happens very early on. So even though it's less than 24 hours, I'm happy to start playing with this. So let's open it up and see how much super glue is drilled into the hinge, see if we can open it, see what cosmetic mess it's made, but more importantly, does it feel like this is going to flex when we open it? At least I can open it, so that's good. So I don't know if you can see that, but there is some flex in this part when I open and close it. And that's what's generated that crack there. So maybe I should have cut this in a T shape and extended it along here a little bit. Here's the back changing. So I don't think this crack is moving when I open and close the hinge. So I think the emergency repair we did on this corner yesterday, I think probably has helped. It's a shame we didn't extend this along here a little bit, I think maybe, in retrospect. The other side hasn't got a crack on it, but may develop one. So, I mean, in comparison to this corner, this looks very neat. This is starting to look a little bit messy. But as I said, I didn't really have a choice. On the inside, there's a little bit of super glue residue, which I think I might be able to get off with a knife. You can just see the inside of the card. Still a little bit of white there. If I get some pen in there, that might help disguise that repair a little bit. So function-wise, I'm probably going to give it an 8 out of 10 for this bit. It's a missed opportunity to fix this little bit here, though. So that's a bit of a shame. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. We'll be looking at this system another time. But there was a small chance we weren't ever going to get to review it if the hinge had fallen off. So, so that is progress. There's a little bit of super glue residue in this corner. So the fumes do tend to get everywhere. But I'm sure we can tidy that up. So if you've never seen one of these, that they are quite cool. The reason I got it out was I was going to compare it with a Toshiba 50CT, a libretto. So let's do that now. You can see they're similar sort of widths. And the similar sort of depths, at least they would be without the extended battery. The Poqet PC is a bit thinner. I think the overall volume is probably about the same because it's narrower but deeper. So in terms of fitting in the pocket, I think they're both about the same. Obviously that takes AA batteries. That is definitely lighter than this with extended batteries. This is probably close to just over 1 kilo with the extended battery. I think it's 850 grams without. But anyway, back to this repair. I think, you know, actually just in that last few minutes of video, I haven't really noticed the repair. So I'd call that a success. So hopefully that was useful. We will see what happens with those further cracks, see if they need any further engineering, and hopefully this will stay on, hopefully indefinitely.